Warning, spoiler alert, this video includes film plot and ending. Jack Torrance is interviewed for the responsible position of winter caretaker at the remote Overlook Hotel, which is isolated in the Rocky Mountains far from anywhere. The hotel closes during the snowed-in months. During Jack's interview, the hotel manager Stuart Ullman tells Jack about the hotel's history since its 1907 construction. He also tells him about a tragedy that took place in the winter of 1970, where the previous caretaker, Charles Grady, developed what the old-timers used to call cabin fever, which resulted Charles Grady killing his wife and 2 daughters with an axe. Jack isn't concerned about the hotel's dark past. He's impressed with the hotel and is actually successful in getting the job, and he plans to use the time in the hotel to write. During the interview back home, Jack's son Danny has an imaginary friend called Tony, and Tony shows Danny a terrifying premonition about the hotel. Tony also tells Danny that his dad has got the job. All 3 of the Torrance family, Jack, Wendy and Danny, move into the hotel on its closing day, and they're given a tour. Head chef Dick Halloran surprises Danny by telepathically offering him an ice cream. Halloran explains to Danny that he and his grandmother shared this telepathic ability, which he calls shining. Then Danny asks if there's anything to be afraid of in the hotel, and the head chef Halloran tells Danny that the hotel has many memories, and not all of them were good. He also makes a point to tell Danny to stay away from room 237. A month passes by, and Jack's writing goes nowhere, and Jack's wife Wendy finds out that the phone lines are out due to the heavy snow, and Danny has frightening visions. Jack also becomes increasingly frustrated, and he starts behaving strangely, and he has some violent outbursts, and Danny's curiosity about room 237 gets the better of him when he sees the room's door open. Later, Wendy finds Jack screaming during a nightmare while he's asleep at his typewriter. She wakes him up, and then Jack tells her that he dreamed that he killed her and Danny. Then Danny arrives from his visit to room 237, and he's visibly traumatized. His mum Wendy notices there's a bruise on his neck, and she immediately accuses Jack of abusing him. Jack is furious and makes his way to the empty hotel bar, and he meets a ghost bartender called Lloyd. Jack complains about his marriage, and then Wendy later tells Jack that Danny told her that there's a crazy woman in one of the rooms who tried to strangle him. So Jack goes to investigate what's going on in room 237. And he finds a naked woman there, but he tells Wendy that he saw nothing. Jack suggests to Wendy that the bruise on his neck was caused by Danny doing it to himself. Wendy and Jack argue over Danny, and a furious Jack returns again to the empty bar, which is now filled with ghosts attending a ball. And it's here where Jack meets with a waiter who introduces himself to be Charles Grady, the caretaker that killed his family with an axe. Grady tells Jack that he must correct his wife and child, and that Danny, his son, has reached out to the head chef Halloran using his shining talent. Meanwhile, Halloran is concerned because he can't contact the hotel. Wendy's looking for Jack, and she comes across what exactly he's been typing at his typewriter. She finds pages of the repeated line over and over again, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." This is incredibly upsetting for her. Then Jack finds her looking at his work. She begs Jack that they need to leave the hotel with Danny, but he threatens her, and then she knocks him unconscious with a baseball bat. She drags him into the kitchen and locks him in the pantry. Unfortunately, she and Danny are both trapped at the hotel because Jack has disabled the hotel's two-way radio and the snowcat transport. When Jack wakes up from his baseball bat injury, the ghost of Charles Grady unlocks the door to the pantry and frees Jack on the condition that he must correct his family. Mum and son have no idea that Jack has escaped from the pantry. Danny's in a trance and he writes red rum on the outside of the bathroom door. Then Wendy sees the word reversed in the bedroom mirror, and the word is revealed to be murder. Suddenly Jack begins hacking down their apartment door with an axe. Wendy saves Danny by getting him through the bathroom window, but the window won't open wide enough for her to escape as well from her husband. Jack smashes down the bathroom door. Wendy is beyond terrified. Wendy slashes Jack's hand with a large butcher's knife. Jack screams and then is suddenly distracted when he hears Dick Halloran arriving in a snowcat. Jack's forgotten about Wendy and he leaves the bedroom. He leaves the apartment and murders Halloran with an axe. Then he hears Danny scream, which gives Danny's location away, and Jack goes after his young son. Wendy runs through the hotel looking for Danny. Danny runs outside and into the hotel's hedge maze. Jack is following his footprints in the snow. Danny manages to mislead his father by making a false footprint trail in the snow. Suddenly the footprints come to an end and Jack's all confused. Where's Danny gone? Danny grabs his moment and he escapes from the maze. And then he reunites with his mum and they escape from the overlook in Halloran's snowcat. Then Jack Torrance, Wendy's husband, Danny's father, can't find his way out of the maze and freezes to death. My alternative ending. Danny writes red rum on the outside of the bathroom door, and then Wendy suddenly sees the word reversed in the bedroom mirror. The word is revealed to be murder. Suddenly Jack begins hacking through their apartment door with an axe. Wendy and Danny rush into the bathroom and Wendy saves Danny by getting him through the bathroom window. But the window won't open wide enough for her to escape from her husband. Jack starts to smash down the bathroom door and Wendy is beyond terrified. And with a large butcher's knife, Wendy slashes his hand. Halloran's plane to Colorado is delayed for a couple of hours. Jack acknowledges the cut on his hand, which fuels his determination to correct his wife even more. Nothing can stop him now. Like a steam train, he screams at his frail, exhausted wife as he brings his axe down onto her skull, splitting her small head neatly down the centre of her forehead, slicing down in between her eyes, the blade stopping just past her nostrils before her mouth. Now her screaming, begging and interfering has stopped forever. She has been corrected. Jack continues his chopping frenzy as he cuts Wendy up into little pieces. When he's done with her, Jack admires his work, smiling at the blood and flesh splattered in the small bathroom. He takes a few moments to get his strength back. In the silence, he enjoys the vile smell of his wife's death. In the silence, he hears crying from Danny. His son must be close by. Danny returned from the freezing cold outside, hoping to save his dear mum, but the young boy arrived too late. Jack walks slowly out of the bathroom carnage into the bedroom. And at the foot of the adult double bed, Danny is standing in his own urine, shaking, crying, in shock. Jack stands there looking at him. Danny is in a trance now, and Tony is talking. Danny's finger is moving in front of his face as Tony talks through him.
I warned you, Danny. I warned you, Danny. It's all over now. Mummy is waiting for you on the other side.
As soon as Tony said the word side, the force of the sharp axe blade removes Danny's head from the neck. Dad watches with a crazy smile as Danny's head rolls along the floor into the wall. The child's eyes wide open, still alive, looking into the room. The child's headless body somehow remains standing for a moment, and then the legs buckle and the small body collapses to the floor. In the following few seconds, as the last of the blood flows away from his brain, Danny's eyes follows his father as he gently sits down on the side of the bed, and after carefully laying the axe down, Jack lights up a cigarette. The last thing Danny will see is his dad staring into space with dead eyes, like the last few minutes never happened.